Okay, if you're just joining us, if this is the first video you're watching, then hopefully everything makes sense. I'll try and go over it so that it does make sense. But if you have watched the one where we have the trailer, then some of this will, we'll already talked about some of this, but I just want to show you basically where we're at. And before I go into the parts and stuff like that that are for the trailer, just to explain sort of the plan for the videos on the install, is that we want to set it up in a way that every part of the install, including modifications for the trailer, etc., are individual videos, so that if at some point in time you want to find a specific video on a specific component or part of the install, you can go to the playlist or the library and find those, so that you don't have to go through the entire all as one video. And then at the end we will probably put out one video that has the entire install all as one. But in that one we'll use some time lapse and things like that, so that we can do some, so it doesn't have to be that long a video, and then you can go back and find the individual component sections that you want. So the trailer modifications that we're doing, if you remember, there was the toolbox that we added for the battery drawer. This is the battery drawer. Now for some reason I stuck it shut. There it is. So it is a locking drawer that will go into that tool box that's on the side of the trailer. We are going to use the sheet metal to create a small control panel where most of the controls and things will be for the Ezyloader. The one downside to this particular battery tray is the rivets do stick out on the inside of the battery tray, which could actually end up rubbing on the battery over time and causing holes in it. So we don't want to do that. So we will line it with wood blocks on the inside. It does have straps to keep the batteries in place, so they shouldn't move around in there, but we do want to put the blocks in there just in case, so that we don't have batteries leaking out into the tray. That would be a bad thing. Speaking of the batteries, what we're using is deep cycle battery. This is an 850 cold cranking amp deep cycle battery. It's a fairly large one, and we will put two of these in there in parallel, so that we're connecting them with these before we connect them up to the Ezyloader, so that there should be ample power to actually run the Ezyloader with these two batteries. The trailer that we have has a breakaway unit on it that is required by law here, that means that it's got its own little 12-volt battery to run the breakaway, so that if it does break off, the trailer breaks off the truck, it does apply the brakes. But what we don't want is when we're charging the batteries for the Ezyloader from the truck, we don't want to keep these batteries connected to that, so that if for some reason you've had a long day out working with the Ezyloader and you have depleted these batteries, we don't want to deplete the emergency breakaway unit battery as well. So we will put a battery separator in, an isolator for 12 volts, so that we can make sure that the battery that is for the emergency breakaway unit is still functioning at that time. Also, just for a safety measure, which should never be needed, but it may be useful if you're doing some work on the unit, or if for some reason there is an electrical issue of some sort, we'll put a kill switch in the battery going to the Ezyloader, just so that if for some reason you need to turn off the power to the battery, you can do that. As well. In that will also be in the control panel, bright red, so it's easy to see. In the control panel we will also put a battery charger, and this is a unit that will just be bolted onto the side, so that with a cover plate on the front, so that you can just, using an extension cord, just plug it straight in. You don't have to get a separate battery charger. You plug it in the evening when you're done, and by the morning the battery should be charged. It does have a tester on it as well, so that you can make sure that your batteries are charged in the morning by the time you get there. And I think that's about it. The one thing for the outriggers is we are using 7,500 pound jacks, and we'll do one on each side for an outrigger, and we're trying to set them up so that it's as easy and as quick as possible to set them up and tear them down. So that's the plan, at least. We're using two sets of tube on the inside for structural strength, so that we have that added rib in between welded together for that to slide out, and we will show that as well. box of parts that you will get. I said that already, so let's just continue. This is a kill switch, or a power on-off switch that we will put in the control panel. Again, on the trailer, in truck situations, this would be in the cab of the truck. You do get a length of wire to control that, and there is a spot on the motherboard for plugging this in. You will get, in another bag of parts, there are both male and female spades in here so that you can connect this unit up. And this is basically your, commonly in your truck or when you're driving with a trailer, it's best if you actually turn this off. That turns off all power so that nothing can be operational or go wrong while you're driving, so the unit is basically turned off. So this turns off the power to it in the motherboard, but the batteries are still alive, so that's why we're putting in the kill switch for the battery. So you get the wires for that and the switch, as well as some spades. There's also in here some, oh, here. You also get a length of battery cable. This is to hook your positive and negative terminals on your battery to the Ezyloader. Very important when you're hooking up your Ezyloader for the first time, that you do make sure that you have a solid ground connected from your batteries to your Ezyloader before you start working with it. If you're going to use alligator clamps or something like that and just think that it doesn't need a whole lot of ground to operate, that would be an error, and that's often what part of the problem is at the beginning, is the ground is not solid. So when we do this, we will actually grind off a tiny little bit of paint right around where the bolts are going to go through, so that we can make sure that we have a very solid ground from the machine to the batteries, because that is important, that your voltage is high enough at all times. The batteries, the Ezyloader does have a kick out, so that if it does go too low in voltage, it will stop some of the functions, so that for safety reasons, so that you're not doing things that the Ezyloader can't do anymore because it doesn't have the power. So you do get that battery cable. You get the compression fittings for the battery cable to connect those, as well as shrink tubing to identify your positive and negatives in red and black. The spades, as I mentioned, and you get a set of keys so that you can lock your control panel, your access panel, that has your hydraulic pump and your motherboard and your settings features, your electrical, all that. So that's that part. Let me just toss those away and clean that up later. You will get bolts to attach your Ezyloader. In some cases you may need to get extra, longer bolts. In some cases, if you're going to use a section of rebar and brace your Ezyloader across your the cross members on your deck or on your trailer. Twist ties, or zip ties I should say, to connect that, so on the bolts. And you also get your tines in this box, and these will either go to the outside of the cradle for lifting two-way pallets, or directly underneath, where it will be narrow enough to fit in underneath a brood chamber, so that you can lift individual hides on brood chamber if that's your that's your method. You will also get two of these tabs, handhold tabs, that you've probably seen operated already on YouTube. We'll demonstrate them again. It does have an adjustment for different lengths of super, so you can make sure that you can reach in. And these basically, you slide them down, and as it gets into the handhold, it will just drop, and you can lift them up, and you will have two of these in the box as well. So that's basically it. For this Ezyloader, for the demo, I did get a 4x pallet attachment as well for forks, so that we can lift full 4x4 pallets, and I will put that on as well, because this thing can you can find out how much weight you've got on your forks, and I'm actually curious how much this welding table costs. I haven't figured that out yet. A few other things that I'd like to weigh just for fun, but more importantly, you can actually use that function on the control unit to find out how much honey you've got in your boxes, which is kind of cool. All right, I think that about does it for this, and I guess it's about time to get to it. Almost forgot. I should mention this. As I was cleaning up stuff, I realized the components that we're using. When we are done the entire install, and the video sessions are complete, we will get a list of all the parts that we have, the specs on them, and what we have used, so that if you are building one of these yourself, or installing one of these yourself, it's you have a baseline at least where to start with, and we'll do that at the end just in case some of these don't actually function the way we want them to. They should, but just in case they don't, we want to make sure that we have the right components so that we'll do the swap test, and then we will put the list of parts that we have used at the end of the last video. So look for that at the end, yeah, we'll go get the trailer and bring it in and start working.